2 games, 2 charges. You right on cue, huh?
Yeah, man, feels good to be back. Got to get a glory to God for allowing me to be back, and um, big thanks and shout out to the training staff for allowing me to take my time and get back healthy, strength and conditioning staff as well. So yeah, all glory to God.
How did you I asked you about this a little bit last night, but just in the preparation, I mean, you're kind of jumping onto a moving treadmill here. How did you get to game speed and game tempo and all of that stuff? I know you're a veteran, but it's still hard.
Yeah, it's tough, but like I said last night, it's kind of like riding a bike. Once you get in there, everything feels natural. Man, my teammates and the coaching staff, they do a great job of just letting me feel a part and making the game easy for me, for the way I'm able to come back and just be myself, play the game.
Did you feel the crowd kind of cheering you on when you stepped onto the court for the first time against LA?
Yeah, I did. It's a great feeling. That happened a couple years ago too when I first came back, and it's just a great feeling. Kind of warms your heart a little bit, just to know that the fans are behind you. So yeah, it's a super exciting, great feeling.
Kenrich, obviously, a couple years back, you spent a lot of minutes at the 5. I just wonder what these minutes are like now, considering the team situation with health and all that.
Yeah, pretty much the same, honestly. Concept, they don't change. Use your size and speed to an advantage. There's advantages and disadvantages of it, but we're focused on the big picture, and at times it's gonna be like this during the season. We're gonna have some adversity, and it's about just making it happen.
What were those weeks like for you, mentally more than anything, of trying to get back and knowing that it was going to be a little bit of a process before you're healthy again?
Oh, it's tough, super tough. Anytime you're hurt and you're not able to be out there and play the game that you love, it's tough mentally. But I got a good set of foundation. My family was behind me the whole time. Like I said, the training staff and the strength and conditioning staff, they were a big part of helping me get back. And like I said, it's these guys, man. Just the joy every day they have, it rubs off on you. You can't come in here with a sad face seeing these guys happy every day. So big shout out to the guys, and like I said, just all glory goes to God.
Spent a lot of time playing small ball 5 in your career so far. Giving any of you guys some tips on the craft a little bit?
Yeah, man, they pretty much got it handled, man. J-Dubs, you've seen what he's doing out there, man. He's amazing. So I try to give little pointers here and there, but for the most part, those guys are well equipped and they know what's going on.
You have a new one-on-one partner this
year? Not this year, man. I'm taking it slow right now, man. I'm taking it slow. My return to play right now, so maybe in the middle of the season I'll find somebody. I seen some guys playing down here, a couple guys, so I'll get in with
somebody you want to play.
I don't mind, man. It's whoever. It don't matter. It could be you.
Hey, I can go play right now.
Kenrich, you guys have faced adversity in some tough circumstances over the last handful of years, a number of different times. The other night, on Sunday night, Chet getting injured and having to turn around, finish that game, and then play the next day. What did you notice just in the locker room, on the bench, about the way that this team once again responded to that? Maybe, who was integral in that, and how you guys managed that as a team?
Yeah, man. Anytime you see one of your brothers go out, it's super tough, especially Chet. How much he loves the game and how much he put into the game over the summer and leading up to this point. So it's super tough to see him, go out like that. But he'll be back. And to answer your question, Coach Mark, he set us down and gave us a good speech, motivating speech about how, this isn't the first time we're going to face adversity. So it's all about just playing with that chip on our shoulder. Of course, we got a few of all of our big men are out. So just finding a way. You got to find a way. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you. It's the NBA, and this is what it's about.
What are the advantages for small ball from your perspective, from the team's perspective, that you guys can exploit?
Being able to space the floor is one of the main ones. Um, Using our size to an advantage. We're small, so we should be a lot quicker than the opposite opposing fives. And just playing together and being scrappy on the defensive end, that's the most important thing.
How much does competitive nature come in?
I mean, that's day one. That's something you got to have every time you step on the floor, no matter what position you're at, no matter if you're undersized or oversized. It's about being competitive.
While you were sitting on that bench and couldn't play, what did you see on the team? Did you see anything new about this team?
Yeah, whenever you're sitting down and you're watching, you're able to just figure out ways you can help the team. And by sitting those 10 games, I was able to see, okay, I know what I can bring to the table. I can be scrappy, bring energy to the game. And like I said, those guys are doing an unbelievable job. The coaching staff is putting us in a great position to be successful. And this is about us going out and staying hungry and competing every night.
Mark, you mentioned Kaysen really dialing it up in the second half last night. He did something that I think I've only seen a couple of times: steal the inbounds pass as the guy guarding the inbounds play. I mean, just can you speak to maybe the instincts or the quickness or what's required to make those types of plays?
When it shows up most, it's his shot contesting. He's a good athlete. First of all, he's got good length, and he's got good instincts. And so happens a lot where he's the second guy off the floor on a shot contest, and then he'll block the jump shot as a pretty small guard. And I think it's similar skill to what you're talking about there.
Not necessarily trying to dive into specific conversations or anything, but he seems like such an even-keeled guy. When you do need to get him to tap into to more of being himself, how do you? What does he respond to best? Typically,
He's a course correcting guy. He's not, he doesn't need a lot of pushing. He knows how he wants to play. He has a high internal standard. So a lot of it's just reminding him of that or not, and just letting him, course correct. Last night, like I said, I didn't think he was great or on par with his normal level in the first half, and I didn't say anything to him. He just, third quarter, he amped it up. So I think the guys that subbed in the game deserve some credit for that too. They clearly elevated the game, and I thought everybody kind of caught on to that after.
Mark, I understand that basketball changes with time, but I just wonder what's your philosophy with small ball, and what that maybe looked like before you took on this head coaching job, and how that's maybe changed since you inherited this tenure.
I think a responsibility that you have as a coach is for the whole to be better than the sum of the parts, first of all, and then you have to maximize the personnel that you have on a team. And right now, the way to do that is to play small. I've always been a big believer in getting the most impactful players on the court the most. And sometimes that's big, and sometimes that's small, depending on availability, depending on roster. So I don't have an ideology as it comes to, when it comes to small ball. If the best players are front court players, we'll get them on the court together too. But right now, of the guys available, obviously our best guys and most impactful guys are small, and so we're going to play them all.
What have you seen from Kenrich in the first couple of games that he's played here, and what have you noticed about the energy that he brings when he steps onto the court?
Yeah, I think, he definitely elevates the level of the game when he goes in. I think Jay Will's like that, and so when both of those guys were out, you could feel it a little bit, in terms of being able to put a guy in and have them, raise the level. I think Caruso's like that. He's provided that for us so far this season. I think Dylan Jones has a chance to be like that, but he just needs to harness that, energy and channel that energy. But he's similar to those guys in that way. But the level of the game raises up. It just becomes a little more physical, a little more edgy, and you need that on your team, especially off the bench. We have it in the starting lineup with Dort, especially Jalen Williams like that a little bit, but The bench guys, for what you saw last night, you get off to a slow start. They changed that game last night very quickly.
With the 3 games in 4 nights, a couple back-to-back so far this season, have there been challenges to like trying to implement things in practices with the limited amount of practice you guys have had?
Yeah, I think, the good news is it's something you can prepare for. Like, you know what the schedule is, and we're coming off a training camp. And so our philosophy with training camp is we want to give ourselves everything we'll need for the whole season. We obviously will layer as we go, but we don't want holes coming out of training camp. Training camp's too long. You have too many practices and game opportunities to have holes coming out of it. So we had a good camp. The guys did a good job of kind of building the toolbox, so to speak, because we knew the start of the schedule was going to be tough from a travel and scheduling standpoint, which it has been. We've played a lot of games in a short amount of time over the course of a lot of cities until this homestand.
Has it made it tougher the homestand because of the small ball you had to go to exclusively? The fact that you play so many games, like game off, is that affected things?
Yeah, but I think what's helped us is we've won some of these games where we could rest guys, later in the games, and we've been able to keep the minutes relatively under control despite having team success, but we haven't had to burn, our high minute guys in a lot of games this year. And I think the cumulative effect of that helps you, stage out fatigue in the more condensed parts of the schedule.
I ask you about Leon's and just, obviously kind of early in his tenure here, but where's he at in the system fundamentals thing? Obviously, he's got great energy and 21 rebounds the other day in that game and seeming to just be all over the floor, pressuring full court and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's a uniquely effective player and has been from the beginning. And he's just one of those guys, you got to pay attention to him because you always feel him when he's in the game. Even in the NBA games in the preseason, when he's out there, he's out there. He just has a knack for having an impact, especially defensively, especially around the glass. His offensive rebounding really popped in the preseason. And he continued that the other day with the Blue. You just couldn't help but notice him when he was on the floor because he just is in the middle of everything. And so guys that start there, it's a nice place to start. And now it's a matter of learning the system. He's got to improve his skill a little bit. Although he just hit a tough turnaround on Dylan in their one-on-one game. But generally he's got to improve his skill. But he's the kind of guy we want to have in the program. Guys like him help us sharpen our blade developmentally. We like having guys that have a baseline of impact that then we got to figure out, okay, what does this person need to enhance that? And he's such a good guy. He's the type of guy we want to be working with.
First NBA Cup game tomorrow. You guys got a year under your belt under that system. Have you noticed different type of feel or energy to those games compared to the standard regular season game?
I was pretty impressed last year with the intensity of those games. I mean, it's not playoff intensity, but it's above a casual regular season game that can sometimes feel like that. I think the crowds and the attention on it helps that. Those were pretty electric environments last year. We're hoping to get the same tomorrow, which I'm sure will be the case. But yeah, it was fun last year. It's, good opportunity to test ourselves in what feels like an elevated game in the regular season, especially this early in the year. And so the guys are excited, we're excited, but we hope our compete level is the same every night, regardless of external circumstances.
I think it was after that game earlier this week when you mentioned Shea and Lou being kind of in that game, they offered the things you would expect from two of the longest tenured guys on the team. I know that's not, maybe a level of leadership or whatever other qualities, that's not maybe the expectation from guys like that on every organization and every team. Just what do you expect from, the guys that have been here the longest?
I mean, those two guys in particular, it's not related to tenure as much as it is just they've had an outsized impact on our team. They've had an outsized impact on our environment, and they've had an outsized impact on the success of the team the last 2 seasons. The jump we made the year we made the play-in and the jump we made last season, they've had a ton to do with that on court, but they've had as much or more to do with that in the invisible spaces that not everybody will see, just with their consistency, example, character, competitiveness. And, Chet getting hurt gave us a third center that's on the injury reserve list. And that's a tough, challenging circumstance for a team. That's an adversity you're going to face in the season. And I was just impressed they brought their fastball the other night. And I wouldn't expect anything different. I wasn't expecting them not to, but they did. And I wanted to acknowledge that after that game. I thought that was an important statement by those two guys, especially in that game.
This is the second straight year that Lou Dort has improved his efficiency. Kind of how have you seen him evolve offensively?
He's narrowed his game and he's cut the fat, and he's taken a very sophisticated approach to it, and it's made a huge difference for us because the efficiency he's playing with creates possessions and space for other people, while also making him effective. Teams have had to put their 5-man on him lately because of the small lineups, and even with Chet they were doing that, but they have to close to him even with a 5 on him because of his shooting and how efficiently he shot it. I think teams fear him because he can make 5 threes in a game if he gets it going. And that's not even talking about his defensive impact, which speaks for itself at this point. So he's a two-end player, and has honed that over time. He's been a great developmental story on the offensive end of the floor, especially.
I think you have 4 guys in like the top 15 in deflections, just total deflections this season. And I know it's a small sample size, but what does that tell you about the way you guys are playing? Or does that kind of fall in the category of turnovers as sort of outcomes?
Yeah, I think deflections are like a barometer of defensive intensity. And I think when you pressure and you're like in the ball, those things happen. It's not an emphasis as an outcome, just like the turnovers, but the pressure's an emphasis, and the crowd, the swarming help is an emphasis. And I think the turnovers and the deflections are a byproduct of that. But if you're not doing that hard, then the deflections and turnovers don't happen. So the fact that stat exists is probably a pretty good indicator that we've competed pretty hard in the first 12 games of a 82-game season.
More important with the small ball lineup that you're going with exclusively, those deflections. More important.
Yeah, the pressure and the swarming is definitely more important because the closer the team gets to the basket, the more their size becomes a factor. It doesn't matter how tall you are if you're 30 feet from the basket, but if you're right next to the basket, your size definitely matters. And so we want teams playing out in our territory, and the way you do that is with pressure. You win closeouts. You're not easy to beat. And you're early with your help. You're not pulling your help late the way that you can when you've got elite shot blockers back there. And so that's been a subtle adjustment. But again, we were playing 18 to 20 minutes a game without Chet, even when he was healthy, because Hartenstein and Jay Will have been out the whole time. And so it hasn't been a huge change. It's just been we've had to do it for the entire 48 minutes.
Is that a revelation you came to with guys being injured, or is that something that you've always felt?
The pressure thing?
Yeah.
I just think it's common sense. If you let a tall guy near the basket, he can be tall. If he's on the perimeter, his size is less effective. And so we have to play to our strengths right now. And anytime, we got to understand what our strengths are and play to them. And I think we've done a nice job of that. But we have tall tasks here coming up.